Hi everyone, very quickly I'm going to explain the verb tener in Spanish. It is one of the most commonly used verbs, so if you can learn this one quickly and carefully, you will help yourself a lot in the future as you continue to learn Spanish. So the word tener, just by itself, means to have, as in like you have something, like I have my cell phone in my hand. We'll also talk about later how we can use it just like in English to say other things like an obligation, like, oh, I have to do something. So anyways, the basic meaning is to have. And just like other Spanish verbs, when we use it, we have to conjugate it or change it so that it matches the subject. For example, in English, if I say, oh, I has a question, it sounds wrong. I have to change it to say, I have a question. He has a question. She has a question. It's got to match or else it sounds funny and it's confusing. But we'll see that in Spanish it has a lot more versions than in English. So the yo form, talking about yourself, yo tengo, I have. Tú tienes, you have. Usted tiene also means you have, but you're speaking very formally. Él tiene, ella tiene, he has, she has. Then if you're talking about multiple people, nosotros, we. Nosotros tenemos, we have. Vosotros, don't have to worry about unless you're in Spain. Ustedes tienen, you guys have. Or ellos tienen, ellas tienen, they have. So in a sample sentence, tenemos clase el lunes, we have class on Monday. Tienes una bicicleta, do you have a bike? Notice very quickly there, when you ask a question in Spanish, you don't have to add extra words like you do in English, these auxiliary verbs. You don't have to add the word do. You basically just say, you have a bike? And it becomes a question, but more on that later. The other big thing to keep in mind when you use the verb tener, you can change it to say, oh, instead of something that you have possession, you can say an obligation. Oh, I have to do this. I have to do that. I have to eat. I have to run. I have to. In English, you add the word to. I have to. In Spanish, you add the word que. Tengo que. So if you add the word que after your use of tener, then you're saying, oh, I have to do this, or you have to do this, or she has to do this. And it says there you have to use the infinitive after. So whatever activity, whatever action you have to do, you don't conjugate that verb. You just leave it in its normal infinitive form. So it'll end with the letters ER, AR, or IR. And the examples here, tengo que estudiar, I have to study. Notice that the verb estudiar is just the normal infinitive form, but you conjugate tener and you add que. Miguel tiene que leer un libro. Miguel has to read a book. So it's an obligation. You're not saying he has a book. You're saying he has to read a book. I think it's helpful sometimes to compare this to English. So in English, what do you notice? I have, you have, he, she, it has, we have, you all have, they have. If you don't see it, the big difference for me is in English, you basically say the same word no matter what subject. So I think sometimes when people are learning Spanish, they get confused because in English we just have one or two versions. In Spanish, there are 6 different versions, completely different versions, and you have to make sure carefully that you match the verb to the subject when you use it in a sentence. And final reminders, you want to know all those 6 versions of tener and when to use them, and that you have to remember that special rule of if you want to say you have to do something, you put the word que after it and then the activity, but the verb for the activity is in the infinitive.